Before Blackbeard became the most feared pirate on the seven seas, he needed the perfect ship. One whose very name would strike terror into the hearts of sailors everywhere. This is the true story of how he found it. And stick around to the end and discover how you can join us for more authentic tales that history books and pop culture have left behind. The Caribbean, 1717. As the mists clung to the waters like ghostly fingers reaching across the expanse of the sea, few could have anticipated how the fates of a French slave ship, a notorious pirate, and the waters of the Atlantic would become intertwined in the tapestry of maritime legend. For in these waters, one man's calculated move would transform him from a mere privateer into the most feared name on the high seas, the dreaded Blackbeard. Before the black flag with the skeleton struck terror into the hearts of sailors, and before the burning fuses woven into the beard created his demonic silhouette, Edward Teach, the man who had become Blackbeard, was simply another sailor seeking fortune in troubled waters. Now, what alchemy of ambition and opportunity transformed this ordinary seaman into the nightmare of merchants and navies alike? The answer lies partially in the acquisition of a single vessel, one that would become as legendary as the pirate himself. The tale begins not with Blackbeard, but with the ship named La Concorde. Built in the shipyards of Nantes, France, in 1710, La Concorde was no ordinary vessel. Her frame was hewed from sturdy oak. Her design was balanced for both capacity as well as speed. And though originally commissioned as the privateer, the economics of the Atlantic trade soon repurposed her for much more sinister commerce, the transportation of human cargo, slaves, across the cruel Middle Passage. For a ship designed to hunt, she became instead a floating prison. Her holds modified to contain the bodies and the spirits of enslaved Africans bound for the plantations of the New World. By 1717, La Concorde had completed 2 voyages in the triangle trade when she set sail under Captain Pierre Dosset for what would be her final journey under the French flag. The ship departed Nantes with a crew of 75 and an arsenal of 16 cannons, a necessary precaution in waters where dangers lurked behind every horizon. But what defense can prevail against the vagaries of fate? As La Concorde approached the island of Martinique, disaster struck in the form of widespread disease. Scurvy and dysentery ravaged both crew and human cargo, leaving the ship dangerously undermanned and vulnerable. And when they sighted the silhouette of land, the remaining crew must have felt the first stirrings of relief, unaware that a far greater danger than disease was about to descend upon them. For weeks prior, Edward Teach had been sailing alongside Benjamin Hornigold, a mentor in the arts of piracy. Together they had captured and plundered smaller vessels, but Teach's ambition exceeded these modest prizes. What thoughts must have filled his mind as he gazed across the waves, searching for opportunity? Do you think he knew that destiny approached in the form of a weakened slave ship? On November 28th, 1717, near the island of St. Vincent, 2 sloops appeared on the horizon, bearing down on La Concorde with unmistakable intent. Captain Dosset, with his depleted crew and ailing cargo, faced an impossible choice: fight with diminished strength or surrender to preserve what lives remained. The pirates fired warning shots across La Concorde's bow, a language universally understood on the high seas. As the private sloops drew alongside, 30 bloodthirsty men swarmed aboard the French vessel. Their leader was no ordinary pirate, standing over 6 feet tall with thick, black beard that seemed to consume his face. Edward Teach was an imposing figure. But it wasn't merely his physical presence that commanded attention. It was the calculated intelligence behind his eyes, quickly assessing the prize before him. What Teach saw was a vessel far superior to his current flotilla, a ship built for speed and strength, now weakened, but with potential that only his experienced eye could fully appreciate. The decision was immediate. This ship would become his flagship, the vessel that would elevate his status among the brotherhood of pirates. The French crew, overwhelmed and outmatched, surrendered without bloodshed. It was a merciful outcome in the often brutal world of piracy. Teach, demonstrating both pragmatism and a strange form of honor, allowed the captain to set and some of his crew to depart on one of the smaller sloops. The enslaved Africans faced different fates. Some were taken by the pirates as potential crew members, or to be sold later, while others remained aboard La Concorde, their destiny now tied to a new master. As the French sailors disappeared over the horizon in their meager vessel, Edward Teach stood on the quarterdeck of his new prize. This moment called for ceremony, for a christening worthy of transformation about to occur. What better name for his flagship than one that resonated with politics of the time, Queen Anne? The late monarch of England had been sympathetic to privateers during the War of Spanish Succession. Many pirates, including Teach, had begun their seafaring careers as privateers under letters of marque from Queen Anne herself, operating as legal raiders against enemy shipping. But now, in a world where the Peace of Utrecht had rendered privateers unnecessary, these men had turned to outright piracy. By naming his vessel the Queen Anne's Revenge, Teach made a statement, both political and personal. Was it nostalgia for the days when predation carried legal sanction? Was it mockery of the crown that had abandoned men like him when peace rendered them maybe inconvenient? Or was it simply the perfect name to strike terror into those who heard it approaching through the fog? Whatever his reasoning, the transformation of the ship was as dramatic as its renaming. Under Teach's direction, the vessel underwent a metamorphosis from slave ship to pirate flagship. The hull was repainted, the rigging modified for greater speed, and most significantly, her armament was dramatically increased. Where once 16 cannons had defended her, Teach mounted 40 guns of various sizes, creating one of the most heavily armed pirate vessels in the Caribbean. The Queen Anne's Revenge became an extension of Blackbeard himself, intimidating, powerful, and designed to instill fear before a single shot was fired. Just as Teach would place slow-burning fuses in his hair and beard to surround his face with smoke during the battle, giving him demonic appearance, his ship became a floating fortress whose mere silhouette on the horizon was often enough to convince merchant captains to strike their colors without resistance. With his new flagship, Blackbeard's operators expanded dramatically. From the Caribbean to the southeastern coast of the American colonies, the Queen Anne's Revenge led a small flotilla of pirate vessels, capturing over 40 ships in a 6-month period. The flagship's speed allowed Blackbeard to overtake fleeing merchants. And while her formidable armament made resistance futile, the name Blackbeard became synonymous with terror on the high seas. His flag, a harbinger of inevitable defeat. Perhaps the most audacious demonstration in the power this ship gave him came in May of 1718, when Blackbeard blockaded the port of Charleston, South Carolina. For nearly a week, the Queen Anne's Revenge and Blackbeard's other vessels controlled all traffic in and out of the busiest harbors in British America. Ships were captured, crew and passengers held hostage, and the entire town effectively held for ransom. When Blackbeard demanded and received a chest of valuable medicines in exchange for his hostages, it represented the height of his power and audacity. But power, especially that built on shifting sands of piracy, rarely endures. Just weeks after Charleston Blockade, the Queen Anne's Revenge ran aground in Beaufort Inlet, North Carolina. Whether this was an accident or a deliberate act by Blackbeard to betray some of his crew and consolidate his treasures remains one of history's enigmas. Some accounts suggest that Blackbeard intentionally grounded his flagship, taking the opportunity to eliminate crew members who would otherwise have claimed shares of the accumulated plunder. Now, others maintain it was simply bad luck or poor navigation in the treacherous waters of the inlet. The mystery deepens when we consider that Blackbeard had already been considering accepting a royal pardon and retiring from piracy. So, was the loss of his flagship part of his transition? As Queen Anne's Revenge settled onto the sandbar, her massive frame creaking in protest, I wonder what thoughts crossed Blackbeard's mind. Did he watch with regret as his greatest prize became unmovable? Or did he observe with calculated satisfaction as his plan unfolded exactly as intended? The truth likely died with him months later when he fell in battle against Lieutenant Robert Maynard of the Royal Navy. For nearly 300 years, the Queen Anne's Revenge remained lost, her location unknown, her treasures, if any remained, undisturbed. The ship that had been at the center of Blackbeard's most notorious exploits faded into legend, joining the countless other vessels claimed by the sea. But legends have a way of resurfacing. In 1996, nearly 3 centuries after she ran aground, the remains of a shipwreck were discovered near Beaufort Inlet. Years of careful archaeological investigation have confirmed what many hoped. The wreck is indeed the Queen Anne's Revenge. Cannons, anchors, and thousands of artifacts have been recovered, each piece a tangible connection to the brief but spectacular partnership between history's most notorious pirate and his legendary flagship. Today, as marine archaeologists continue to excavate the remains of Queen Anne's Revenge, we are reminded that beneath the mythology of Blackbeard lies a real man who walked the decks of a real ship. The artifacts raised from the seabed, from mundane ship fittings to personal items, humanize the legend. They remind us that Edward Teach was not merely a caricature of evil, but a complex individual operating in the morally ambiguous world of early 18th century maritime culture. The story of Blackbeard and the Queen Anne's Revenge endures not simply because it is a tale of piracy, but because it embodies the complex interplay between opportunity, ambition, and the unforgiving sea. In the brief period that Edward Teach commanded his flagship, he achieved a level of notoriety that has outlived him by centuries, ensuring that both his name and that of his vessel remain etched in the annals of maritime history. As the mists close once more over the waters where the Queen Anne's Revenge once sailed, we are left to wonder what other secrets of Blackbeard's brief but legendary career might still lie hidden, just waiting to be discovered by those who dare to look beyond the myth to find the man. Thank you for joining me at the Fireside Storyteller, where we dive beneath the surface of history to find the real stories that time has nearly forgotten. The tale of Blackbeard and Queen Anne's Revenge is just one chapter in our Pirates, Legends, and Dark Realities playlist, which you'll see at the end of this video, where we separate Hollywood's fantasy from the gritty truth of life on the high seas. And if you enjoyed this voyage into pirate history, I invite you to explore our other authentic tales. Maybe, or perhaps, journey with us into the mysterious forests of North America in our Sasquatch series, where we uncover the ancient indigenous legends that long preceded modern Bigfoot sightings. Or discover the real Snow White, what Disney forgot about bravery, beauty, and truth. It's a story more powerful and profound than the sanitized version most of us grew up with. At Fireside Storyteller, we believe that the original versions of these stories survive centuries for good reason. They contain wisdom, warnings, and windows into our shared human experience that deserve to be preserved. Not prettied up, not watered down, just told true. So if you value authentic storytelling as much as I do and love, please tap the like button, please subscribe, and join to our growing community. And if you do know someone who appreciates real stories told well, share this channel with them. Together we're keeping the ancient tradition of storytelling alive, one tale at a time. So, until our next journey together, I'm the Fireside Storyteller, reminding you that sometimes the most incredible stories are the ones that actually happened. See you by the fire next time.